On a cold Christmas Eve, a house in West Virginia went up in flames. The parents and 4 of the siblings managed to get out, but the other 5 were never found, and neither were their remains.
Italian immigrants George and Jenny Sodder lived with 9 of their children. George's business was going well, and according to local officials, they were seen as one of the most respected middle families around. George was known to be outspoken, especially when it came to Mussolini, the Italian dictator. His outspokenness led to a visit from a life insurance salesman who came to his house and warned George that his house may go up in smoke and his children may be destroyed if he continued to be so outspoken. At the time, George's older sons would notice a car which was often parked outside their house and seemed to be watching the family. On Christmas Eve in 1945, Marion, the eldest daughter, had been working and came to surprise her younger sisters with toys. So the children stayed up later than usual playing with the toys, whilst the other children had some chores to do, such as feeding the chickens. And once everyone had completed their chores, they went upstairs to bed. At 10 p.m, the house phone rang and Jenny answered it. The call was from a woman she had never heard of, asking about names she hadn't heard of, and it gave Jenny a weird vibe. She hung up and decided to go back to bed. On her way, she saw the lights were still on and the curtains weren't drawn, which was strange as the children would usually close the curtains and switch off the lights. After attending to this, she went back to bed.
Alright, Chip, be honest, what would you do if a life insurance bloke rocked up to your gaff and said, yeah, by the way, mate, you need to be covered for a few things here with all that, with what you're running your mouth about?
It's strange though, because he's a life insurance guy, which means he sells life insurance, and he's telling you your life's in trouble. It sounds like you're just saying it, so I buy cover.
Yeah.
So I buy cover.
Yeah, you're right, you know.
That's what it sounds like.
Because also, why would they want you to have life insurance if you're gonna die? Because then they have to pay out.
Maybe he was just giving him a tip, man, and he wasn't happy with the corruption.
Maybe he had a tip off and he was almost trying to help them out, like, pretty much, mate, because you're so outrageous, like, there is a high chance something terrible happens to you. At least get some cheddar off the back.
Yeah, well,
of it.
he's speaking out against a dictator, and there's only one way that you would imagine that ends. Yeah,
pretty poorly. But the weird bit as well was at the towards the end there, when we were talking about how, like, the phone rang. I mean, I hate it when the phone rings, I pick up, and then sometimes there's just nobody on the other end of the phone, and I swear to God, it creeps me out so much.
Yeah, you can just hear her breathing.
You're moving like Darth Vader, bro.
Thank you, it's a compliment to me.
At 1 a.m, Jenny heard something hitting the roof, but then went back to bed. And in 30 minutes time, the smell of smoke had woken her up. She ran out and saw that the room they used as an office was on fire, as were the phone and the fuse box. They all started to wake up and panic. Jenny, George, and 4 of their children, Mario, Sylvia, John, and George Jr., had escaped. The stairway to the other 5 children had been on fire, meaning the parents could not reach them. They kept yelling and screaming for their children to hear, but there was no response. Marion had run to the neighbor's house to call the fire department as their phone was on fire. At this stage, George was trying to climb the house from the outside into an attic window and tried to use a ladder to rescue his children, but he couldn't locate his ladder, which was usually in the same place. He then went for a water barrel which they could have used to put out some of the fire, but it was frozen solid. George then tried to park his trucks by the house so that he could try to climb onto the attic, but both cars wouldn't start, although they worked well the day before.
Alright, I don't care what anyone says, this was planned, and planned really well. The fact that they went outside to the cars, and the cars just wouldn't start, this is not an accident, okay? There's too many things that have lined up here for it to be an accident.
Yeah, the ladder's gone, the cars aren't working, things are just looking very dodgy.
That's what I mean, it's not like some little pony job here. They've scouted out the different things that could happen if a fire goes off in the house, and they've made sure to get rid of all those things. What's also kind of weird though is the fact that, let's say the fire, the fire did go off, right? And the smoke, and they're shouting out to the kids upstairs, and there's no response. I don't think that they would have died that quickly. There would have been screaming, there would have been some sort of noise or some sort of response if you had kids being burned alive essentially upstairs.
Yeah, you'd be able to hear something. I don't think, from the sounds of it, like, they weren't there.
I don't get that vibe either.
The kids weren't there. He
Yeah,
was trying to save no one, because I don't think anyone's actually in that house anymore.
Yeah, I just feel there'd be a lot more noise from the upstairs.
And it's like, there's 5 kids, like, if they're not there, then where did they go?
And why? Why take them? If you were sort of hitting out at one of your most outspoken like opposition, or they were just like, you know, people that were really critical of you, why like kidnap them and not just kill them? Is there any benefits to kidnapping them but not killing them?
Potentially, maybe if you killed them, like, it would just make the father so angry to the point where...
Oh, it's like almost in the sense that like it's like the hope that kills you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess if your kids die...
If he carries on speaking and he thinks they've been kidnapped by the dictator, then yeah, he thinks they might die.
He shuts up.
If he keeps his mouth quiet, maybe the hope still lives and he might find them one day or something along those lines.
Okay, that's interesting. Almost using that as leverage over him to be like, if you shut up, you might get your kids back. Interesting.
It took the fire department 7 hours to reach the scene due to a lack of manpower caused by the war, so the family had to watch the house burn down with no help. The 5 children who were left in the house were Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty. Jenny's brother was a firefighter who was looking through the scene and ashes, but he couldn't find any bones or evidence which would have been expected from the dead children. Chief F.J. Morris believed the fire was hot enough to burn the bodies of the 5 children completely, and thus there was no evidence. The site was supposed to be a crime scene and left alone in order to conduct a more thorough search, but after 4 days, the Sodder family couldn't handle the pain anymore and bulldozed 1.5 meters of dirt over the site where the house burned down, with the intention of converting it into a memorial garden.
All right, I get it. It's horrible and everything that's happened, but what is with parents and destroying crime scenes? Our last one that we did as well, same thing. They destroyed the crime scene. Why?
The thing is, as well, it's been 4 days.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in pain, whatever. It's been 4 days. Like, you don't need to pour 1.5 meters of dirt over your house.
I know.
You just screwed it up.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that you do maybe after a few months, things have quietened down and you're there just like, right, this is painful. But they literally did it after 4 days. I just think that's a bit strange. Yeah, bizarre.
A coroner claimed the fire was caused by faulty wirings, but the family didn't quite trust this excuse. One claim was that the fire started due to an electrical problem, which the Sodders weren't too sure about as the Christmas lights were on throughout the fire's early stages. Similarly, the ladder was found at the bottom of the embankment 23 meters away. A telephone repairman told the family that the phone line had been cut by someone and not burnt through as they first thought. Someone came forward and admitted to cutting the phone line because he thought it was a power line, but denied having any connection to starting the fire. The police did manage to track down the number of the woman who had called at 10 PM on the night of the fire, and she did confirm that she did in fact call the wrong number. The death certificates for the children were published on December 30th, and the funeral was to be held on January 2nd, 1946, which only the 4 children attended as George and Jenny were too depressed to attend. To try and verify the official accounts, Jenny started to burn animal bones to see if they would disappear in a fire, which they didn't. She then went to a crematorium where she was told that the bones could resist 2 hours of a 1090 degrees Celsius heat, which is much hotter than the house was.
Quite a lot to unpack here, but first things first is the ladder, that just being dashed away.
23 meters away, that's quite far away. So somebody's obviously taken that ladder, chucked it away.
Knowing that this was going to happen.
But why though? Because if they've kidnapped the kids and the kids aren't there, why even bother taking the ladder?
Maybe because they think that if they can't get there, they'll never know whether their kids died in the fire or are missing. And it adds to maybe what they wanted them to feel, or something like that anyways. The other really interesting thing was the fact that Jenny took it upon herself, the mum, to actually go and test out. Like, she obviously didn't find any bones there, and maybe she was either told by people or whatever that these bones would have just been lost in the fire, or like, you know, completely disappeared because of the fire. But she tested it with animal bones, and well,
it wasn't happening.
They should still be there.
Yeah.
The human bones should still be there in the fire. I mean, we already thought earlier that we're pretty sure the kids had been taken and they didn't die in the fire, and I think that right there.
I think there would be just some sign of the kids' remains, even if the fire was burning really hot and for a very long time. There's got to be something.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Later on, a few witnesses came forward. At first, a bus driver stated he had seen people throwing balls of fire onto the house, which coincided with some findings of rubber ball-like objects in bushes around the house. The family then linked the balls to the thud which Jenny had heard on the roof, and the Sodders claimed, in contrast to the fire department's conclusion, that the fire had started on the roof. Following his statement, people came forward claiming they had seen the children at a rest stop the following day. Others claimed they saw them in a passing car. Another woman had claimed to have seen the children with 2 men and 2 women at a hotel, but investigators didn't find her story credible. Private investigator C.C. Tinsley was hired by the Sodders to look into this mysterious case. He found that the man who had previously threatened George about his outspokenness about Mussolini was in fact on the coroner's jury, which had ruled the fire to be an accident.
Now, you want to talk about corruption. I mean, it's quite clear we're in a place where corruption is rife. The bloke that warned the dad was literally on the jury, and he was obviously going to say, hey, look, it was a fire, and that's that, keep it moving. Like, there was nothing fair about this. I refuse to believe that it's a coincidence, but even if it was, you're not supposed to have someone with that much of a connection on the jury.
Some dodgy going on there. He said it was an accident as well.
Yeah.
How convenient.
Of course. That's what I mean, and I just think I'm not buying it.
There's a little bit of cap going on.
A lot of cappuccino.
A lot of wassa.
Tinsley had also heard a rumour of a heart being found in the remains, which was sealed into a metal box and buried in a secret location. Tinsley and George went to Chief Morris to confirm this piece of information. Chief Morris dug up the box, and upon examination of the heart, the examiner revealed it to be beef liver and highlighted that it was never exposed to the fire.
Now it's time to raise some eyebrows at Chief Morris. Yeah, it's not looking good for you, mate.
Geezer.
Because how has he, right, so he's obviously, he claimed he was trying to give the family closure by opening up this box and convincing them that this is the heart of their children so they could just have a bit of closure and think, you know what, they're dead, they're not disappeared, you know, they haven't gone missing, anything like that. But it turned out that it's just cap. I'm like, why have you done that?
I don't understand. Like, he's tried to give them closure. Let's say he's done this, but then why does the chief let the examiner get hold of it and just tell him that it was beef liver?
Like, surely you would be like, by the way, yeah, you're not going to examine that. Like, let's get rid of that because that's obviously not a child's heart.
Yeah.
Very strange.
George, as a father, did not give up. He kept prodding and trying to find his children. He tried to ask the FBI to research into the kidnapping of his children. The FBI explained that if the local authorities were to ask for the FBI's help, they would be happy to do so, but the teams in the local jurisdiction, such as the fire police and fire departments, declined to ask for help. A few years later, in August 1949, there was another search conducted throughout the ashes at the site, and some things were found, including some human vertebrae. Once the vertebrae was tested, they were guessed to be between the ages of 16 to 23, suggesting it wasn't any of the 5 children. The bones also had no sign of being near heat from the fire, which led people to conclude that George had accidentally put it there when bulldozing the site with dirt. After these findings, West Virginia governor officially declared the case to be closed and claimed the Sodder's search was hopeless. There were still many people coming forward claiming they knew the children's whereabouts. Some pointed fingers to convicts, others to relatives whose children looked similar. In 1967, somebody claimed a man had drunkenly confessed to being Lewis, one of the 5 children who disappeared. When George and his son-in-law came to verify this story, the police aided them in finding this man, but he denied being the son. This man's denial never left George's mind. To add to the belief that Lewis was still alive, Jenny received a letter in which there was a photo of a young man who looks like Lewis. On the back of the photo it was written, "Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie." The letter had no return address and seemed to be the most credible evidence of Lewis's survival. However, although this picture gave the Sodders hope, it didn't give them anything else. The Sodders hired a private investigator to check this lead, but he never reported back and in fact went missing.
Well. The rabbit hole gets deeper. So you're telling me they've went out, got a detective to go ahead and look at this in more depth, and he just never came back, never reported anything.
Sounds like they somebody caught wind of what detective was doing this, knew he might have uncovered something, got rid of the bloke.
Either got rid of him or just completely paid him off, and he's just disappeared and he said, right, I'm not going back to this family, I've got my money, I've been told to keep my mouth shut, and he's found like a much deeper thing that's happened here. I mean, I think that's what happened. I'm not too sure they... Actually, I don't know. If you can make a bunch of kids disappear, you could probably make a detective disappear.
One bloke.
Yeah.
Easy takeout. Boom. Quick knife to the neck. Gone.
I'm glad you know what you're doing. So in 1969, unfortunately, George passed away. The dad passed away, and Jenny, the mother, passed away in 1989. The family believe that the Sicilian Mafia, tied in with the Italian Mafia, was involved, right? Sylvia, who was the name of the last child, she passed away actually, unfortunately, last year in 2021. And she doesn't believe that her siblings died in the fire. Now, her daughter, Jenny, was an advocate for posting and sharing information on, and theories on websleuths.com. Now, it's time for our stuff. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think it's pretty obvious here that the kids didn't die from the fire.
No, I don't
But
think
it raises the question, what happened to them? Where are they? Why did they die in any other means? Like, I just feel like there was something a lot deeper that happened here. And it's one of those, I know this might sound terrible, but I just feel like we'll never know.
Yeah.
Because it was such a long time ago.
I think if the kids were alive, they would have found a way back to their family. There's no way they've just trapped them all them years into some jail or something.
Yeah, like
right?
have they convinced them that, oh, you guys are orphans maybe? Do you know what I mean? Like how like were they young enough where you could sort of, they wouldn't remember these things,
Nah,
you know what I mean?
One of them was 14, so it's just not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not doable.
This is what I think. I don't think they died there, but I think they probably died like
Another way,
sadly. Which is obviously pretty wild. I mean, we'd love to hear what you guys think about this. It's quite clear that they got mixed up in some bad mafia shit, that's for sure. And you know what they say as well, like mafia, they don't play games. Like, it's not a matter of, you know, they won't just like kill your family. They'll go the extra mile and like kidnap them, make you think for the rest of your life that they could be alive and that maybe tomorrow they'll come back. You know what I mean? Like, it goes further than just the obvious.
Maybe they were kidnapped and said, look, don't reach back out to your family, otherwise
they all die.
They all die. Maybe it was like you know what, we're going to split this family up for all the problems they caused, burn down the house. Not killed the kids, but they have caused lifelong pain and trauma
to the entire family.
Yeah.
But there we have it, guys. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this case down below. Chip, tell them what they need to do.
Just make sure to subscribe, follow us on Spotify, turn on notifications on both, and we will see you all again next Monday, 6 p.m. for another case.
But we also have a special surprise for you guys on Friday. Stay tuned.